Ready to go.
Okay. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're working on this Poulan Pro pole saw. Say that 3 times fast. Anyway, I picked it up, and the guy told me that he basically got it from a curb, and he sold it to me. So it's a secondary curb find. Now this thing's got an extension, so it's 9 feet long. So this is going to be super popular when it sells. So I think it's worth fixing. So all you new people out there, go ahead and subscribe. It's free, and that's what we work for. So let's get started. Now I already pulled the spark plug out and took a peek inside, and the inside looks really nice. The cylinder is nice and shiny, so we're in good shape there. So next up, we're going to put a little bit of starter fluid in it and see if she'll kick even a little bit. If it kicks a little bit, then we know it's got a good chance and it wants to be alive. So I'm hoping to get something out of it. So next up is to pull the carburetor off and see if we want to rebuild her or throw her away. Go for our trusty 5/16. You can always tell the one you use the most. It's the one where the blue's worn off of it, or the black, or whatever you call it. Yeah. It's definitely bolted on all the way. Okay. Now she's got 0 fuel in her, which is why she didn't keep running. I'd already drained it all out. Now, if you're doing one of these, pay super close attention. Take a lot of pictures. You can see how it runs over this. You're going to find this comes loose on most of them anyway, later on. So these fuel lines look shot. Let's go ahead and cut them. And we'll carry the little throttle thing over the top. A lot of times you can Ouija it off if you get it all the way one way or the other. But not this one. This one's playing hardball with us. There we go. Remember what I told you about this? It sits right there in that little groove, but it's easier to lose track of that later. So let's pull the carburetor off and see what she looks like on the inside. Okay. Now let's see what we got going here. Now underneath on the flat plate, you may have 2 or 4 screws, but this is called the metering diaphragm. It controls fuel going into the engine. Well, it's one of the 2 things that control fuel going into the engine. So, you know, you've got gasket, then diaphragm facing the motor, and the big silver disc faces the engine. So let's pull the butterfly out, or I'm sorry, the burn bulb off. At least I think we will. That one's on there to stay. Taking my time because these screws are super tight on this one. I always wonder if somebody touched it whenever you see that. When you see screws that are oddly tight or oddly loose. That one needs a bigger toy, or a different toy. Let's hit her with the flathead to get her started. There we go. Now she'll let go. And you can see the bows in this. That indicates that this diaphragm is just about done. But other than that, she looks to be in good condition. She's worth throwing through the ultrasonic. See if we can save the gasket. The gasket looks savable. Motor gasket looks good. So let's run her through and get her clean. And throw some new diaphragms and gaskets in it and see if it works. I've got her all cleaned up, and now we're going to go order parts. And you note this little number right here. You're going to want that picture, and note this number right here when you order parts. For a Zama C1U W50A rebuild kit. Now you can leave all of this off and still get a response. And we found the W50 when we were looking at the carburetor on that number. And there it is. That's the gasket. If we compare it to the one we've got here, ours is a little beat up, but you can see every single hole's in the right spot. And there's only one problem with this gasket that I can see, and it's that right there. That's a $50 gasket according to Stens, along with the metering diaphragm. So we're going to search around a little bit and find nothing. That's the only page of returns on that one. Okay, so let's do a quick search another way. Let's say Zama C1U. It's hard to type because the tripod's between me and the keyboard. W50A. W50A. Okay, let's go see what we find here. Well, now there's the whole carburetor. And you'd want to take your carburetor and hold it up and compare it to this picture. But I know for a fact that's the right carburetor. This one is also, and it's $11, which is $39 cheaper than buying the gasket. But let's do a search anyway. Again, it's not easy to type when I've got the camera in front of me. And looking at these, now you want to go a little slower, of course, but I know exactly what I'm looking for. And none of these match. So you have to be really careful because that may look close, but it's not. And it has to be exact. And you see now we've got this one down here. That might work. But it won't be delivered for a couple of weeks. Let's compare gaskets. Yep, that's a match. Now the problem we've got, and you can see it's $3, but that one won't be delivered for a couple of weeks. So let's keep scrolling along. And I do this just about every carburetor. Now search and search. About 80% of the time I've already got the gasket in my little box of carburetor parts, but sometimes you don't. Okay, now we're getting away from the subject. So because we haven't had any luck, we're going to go back here and let's see who the maker is. I don't have a problem with most of the aftermarket carburetor people, except for one or two. And this does not appear to be one of the one or two. Now it's got this, and part of the reason this is a frequently returned item is because it's a C1U W50A. People will buy it thinking that it's the right one, or they're not careful when they purchase it. But you're going to want to compare every single hole. You want to make sure that that's correct, and compare it to your old carburetor to make sure you've got the exact right one. In this case, now that we've got our new carburetor, putting the new carburetor on is a whole lot easier than taking the old one off. Your return line, which we just put new fuel lines in, so I know which one's which, goes to the one closest to the bulb, and your fuel line goes to the other one. Now usually, sometimes you'll have barbs on this one, which makes it a little easier. We'll hook up our linkage. We'll get our carburetor close. And we're using the original gasket because it's still in good enough shape. Click that on, click this in. And which way do we go? We go like this. So put our air box back on. Our air box backing back on. Oh, come on, buddy. There we go. And you should, if the factory tune is correct, you got a running, ready to go pole saw. Or if yours is a weed eater, weed eater. Up, 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 up. Let's get the filter in. Almost forgot an important part. There we go. Everything appears to be working correctly. So let's take it outside and give it a run. I'll put it all together first. This thing is definitely bigger than I am. So let's see how she runs. Let's prime it up. Full choke. Sounds pretty good. This thing's ready to go. That machine sounds strong. It sounds good. So I did order the parts for that old carburetor, and next time you see one of those W50A carburetors come through, it'll be that carburetor all rebuilt and ready to go. It's a lot easier to just order an aftermarket carburetor and bolt it on than it is to rebuild one, but if you've got the time and the patience, rebuilding it will always be cheaper. So all you new people out there, if you made it this far, you might as well subscribe. It's free, and it really is what we work for. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.